Good Erev Shabbos, everyone. Parshas Yisro, Matan Torah, Shabbos following TuBeshvat. So to connect the ideas together, we've been leading up to Matan Torah from the beginning of Bereshis, but specifically from the beginning of Shemos, with the idea that God tells Moshe that the whole purpose of Golus, the exile of Mitzrayim, is that Tavdun al es Elokim b'har hazeh, that you're going to come serve God on this mountain. That means the whole purpose of the exile and the purpose of creation is Matan Torah, is the giving of the Torah. So this is one of the most fundamental pashas of the whole Torah, because it's all about Matan Torah. The whole purpose of creation was, like it says, Yom HaShishi. God said, if the Jewish people accept Torah, then the world's going to exist. If they don't accept Torah, then there's no purpose of the world. So to understand Matan Torah, and what's so unique about Matan Torah, so we discussed this many times and over the years of what changed with Matan Torah. So last week we were talking about the idea that when Moshe Rabbeinu, when the Jewish people are standing before the sea, God tells Moshe to tell the Jewish people not even to pray, to be quiet, to be silent, to try to reach a level that doesn't tap into that God has to respond to our tefillos, to our prayers, but to let God just manifest and give blessings from a place that's beyond our avoda, our reach towards Him. But after that, we know the Rebbe teaches us many times that the idea of silence, the idea of, like Moshe Rabbeinu, when the Jewish people came to the mountain, he didn't say anything to them on the first day. The Gemara says because Chol de Orcha, they were tired. But afterwards, Moshe started to speak and get the Jewish people ready for receiving the Torah. So that idea of the foundation of silence, on top of that we build avoda. We don't remain silent. It's just the foundation to reach a connection to the essence, and from that we build within each one of us in our abilities. And that's why, like the Torah says in this week's parsha, it says Moshe Amar Hashem Yaneinu B'Kol. Moshe spoke and God responded to him. I'm not sure I got the pasuk exactly right, but the context is right. Moshe spoke and Hashem responded to him. And the idea is that the pasuk seems to be out of place because it's just the middle. Rashi tries to say that it's referring to the Ten Commandments, but it's not connected directly to anything that's within the conversation. But the idea that Alter Rebbe explains is that Moshe started to speak, Vashem Yaneinu B'Kol, that Moshe introduced the concept of God responding to us, but responding to us after the foundation that we're connecting with the essence. Once we connect with the essence, then we bring that the essence essential down. The idea is to bring it to pnimis, to internalize with it. Not that should be an external experience. That should become our relationship with God. God sits and responds to how we speak. God responds. He sits. He learns with us Torah. When we learn Torah, God learns with us Torah. And that we find that in many ideas. We find that also in the concept that it says Moshe Nigash el Arafel. Moshe went to the Arafel, to the darkness, Rashi says the depth of the darkness. And we're not sure if the Arafel is a low level. Did he go to a low level of darkness? We also find other verses that says Hashem Shoichem Barafel. God is sitting in the most elevated place in the darkness. So is this a negative or a positive? But it's all full circle. That when you get to the highest, most undefined level of God, you could bring it down to the most darkest of places because it's beyond any limitations. And Moshe Nigash el Arafel, Moshe goes to the darkness so he could bring from that essential, the essence, the simplicity of God, down to our reality of our life, even to the most dark places. And when Moshe does it, even though it says that the people stood from a distance, like the Gemara says, we learned in Sanhedrin, that it says Shalom Shalom Larachik, the greatness of the Baal Tshuva, who stands from a distance. But the idea is that distance is also within context. You're there. You're by God, you're just from a distance. You were once far, and now you're coming closer. Moshe stood from there also. He stood from a distance, and he entered into the cloud to give us the energy that no matter how far we are, no matter how low we are, we could go into the essence of God and bring it down into our reality. And that's really the message of TuBeshvat. The Rebbe, we learned this beautiful sikha today from the Farbrengen of 1985. The Rebbe says, why do we celebrate with the fruits? Why do we celebrate with a fruit which is a pleasure food, as opposed to grains, wheat, barley, which is essential foods? Because when a person starts off their avodas Hashem, like the tree is starting to grow, it's the beginning of a person's journey of a relationship with God, from Rachaik, from someone who is distant who becomes close. The Baal Tshuva within all of us goes and starts their journey towards God. So a person may say that I have to start in a rational way. I have to start with essentials, grains, bread, foods that are essential, things that are essential in my relationship. I wouldn't even think about trying to have pleasure fruits that are just for good taste and are extras, so to say, not essential as breads, to have that represents in our voda, that represents the pleasure in serving God, the pleasure I have in godliness, the pleasure that I have, that I'm a person that has an ability to take the essence, the pleasure of God, and connect and bring that down to the world. That when I serve Him, I awaken the pleasure of God in creation. I awaken the pleasure of God in my avoda. So a person may think that I don't have a connection to that idea. Comes TuBeshvat and says, no, we don't celebrate the grains. We don't celebrate essential food. It's important right away in the beginning to tap into the energy of the essence, to tap into the energy of the pleasure of God and the pleasure that we have in serving God. May we be zoiche to have the true pleasure with the coming of Mashiach, B'Karv. Good Shabbos, everyone.